Alrighty, everybody. In this video, we are covering the biggest headlines in gaming for the week of June 8th, 2026. This week, we will talk about the next 100 days within Xbox. We're calling it Xbox Reset, and all of the potential studio closures that are coming up within Xbox. And we're going to talk a little bit about Asha and the rest of the Xbox leadership and where their heads are, and then jumping into Ubisoft and their potential layoffs that are happening, the ramp off of Rainbow Six Siege developers, and then we're going to talk a little bit about Ninja Theory and Project Mara. So join us as we take a peek at the gaming news. What's going on, Screen Peekers? Marco and I are here recording quite literally in the middle of a flash thunderstorm. There's a tornado warning. You might be hearing the tornado siren right now, but we are here for you guys. What's going on, Marco?
Nothing much, man. I don't know what's coming faster, these studio closures or these tornado warnings, but here we are.
Exactly. Here we are, man. But before we jump into those three topics we have today, some housekeeping items are in order. If you're listening on YouTube and you enjoy our content, please subscribe. Give us a like, leave a comment. We love to stay engaged with you all. If you're on Spotify, please make sure to follow for notifications. Leave a comment. Again, we love to stay engaged with you. Marco, you want to talk about some of our new social media links?
Absolutely. So we just launched on x.com or Twitter, as well as Facebook. So look us up, Screen Peek Podcasts, and follow us on social media. Love to engage with you all there as well. And as mentioned in previous videos, we'll be launching a Discord fairly soon in the next few weeks. So look out for a video on that and all those details. But hoping to keep engaged with you all and keep giving us comments. We love interacting with our community. We're in the early days, right? So we're building a following here on our road to 100 subscribers. So keep with us, and we really appreciate all the feedback and comments so far.
Yep. And all the links will be down below. All right. And Marco mentioned that 100 subscriber milestone. We have a surprise for you guys. We're going to be doing a giveaway, so please stay tuned. Make sure you subscribe. But awesome. Let's just dive into it, Marco. I know you're a huge Xbox fan. We all know that. How are you feeling with just hearing the news about the next 100 days at Xbox, what they're labeling inside of Xbox as Xbox Reset? How are you feeling, man?
Yeah, I think it's basically become a meme at this point within the Xbox fan base that Xbox can't hold on to good news for more than 48 hours before they have to announce bad news, right? So while nothing explicitly bad has happened yet, there is a large amount of speculation within Microsoft, within Xbox. Windows Central has been reporting it, IGN, that there are heavy potential for studio closures and layoffs next month in July 2026 for Xbox. Asha has been making the rounds this week around, like I said, Tech Insider, Business Insider, multiple different interviews, and really just talking about how the business needs to be essentially reset. And she alludes to it in her memo that did get leaked and was shared around social media. Now, nothing explicit has been said, but if you're an Xbox fan, you know how these things tend to go, right? Like, we're so used to layoffs and studio closures at this point. I understand it. I still have faith in Asha, but it's, they can't just hold on to good news. Like, for many, I think the showcase was a little hit or miss. For us, we thought it was more of a miss. But many loved that showcase, and especially going back to some of the other things we saw at the showcase. And later this week, we saw the 30-minute deep dive on Gears, the 30-minute deep dive on Fable. They have so much good momentum right now. And then this memo came out and alluding to potential closures. It's like they just can't keep in the good news cycle for more than 48 hours.
Yeah, and it's been a trend at Microsoft. It's been a trend at Xbox for quite a while. I mean, looking back a couple years when they shut down Tango Gameworks, the developers that developed Hi-Fi Rush.
Hi-Fi Rush.
bro, that game came out of nowhere, was a huge hit, made a lot of money, and they shut them down. It's like insane. And I just read that they're reopened. They got acquired by Krafton, which is a South Korean publisher.
Okay.
And yeah. I mean, come on, what are you doing, Microsoft? What, like, stop shutting down all these great developers, right? Put some love, put some money into these developers and let them flourish. Let them make something good. Just because they're not cranking out Call of Duty slop every single year does not mean they're not, it's not good. And honestly, that might be the gamers' fault at this point. Like, we keep buying Call of Duty slop.
It's a little bit our fault, yeah.
But, yeah, no, it's...
Yeah. And I just have to talk about just like the mixed messaging out of Xbox, and I mentioned this to you before. Just transparency is a double-edged sword, and in her memo, Asha even mentions this as such. Like, we're not going to be winning if we're not transparent. However, I feel like Xbox, especially their leadership, has created like these parasocial relationships with their fans for better and for worse, and all of Xbox leadership has always been on social media for as long as I can remember, interacting with fans, listening to fans, which I think is great. But there are times when in which it fails as well. So they just recently hired Michael Ball as their chief strategy officer. I have to be honest, I didn't know exactly who he was until, a few weeks ago when they first hired him. But, he was a journalist at The Economist. He had a stint at Amazon Games, very storied, journalist and executive at some gaming companies. He does this every year where he writes like the State of Gaming 2026. So this, this guy knows a lot about the strategy and analytics around games. And just this week, like, he supposedly just accidentally retweeted a tweet that was kind of going against Asha. They had to like backpedal it and apologize for it, like. And this is just his second week on the job, and it's becoming this whole thing where like people like that, like, people see those things, and it's not a good light for these leaders, like, constantly just interacting with fans, saying the wrong thing. There's a lot of just mixed messages, and I feel like it just weakens the overall image and the brand quality.
Yeah, I mean, maybe he had a lapse in judgment and fell back on his old journalist days, right? A lot of journalists these days, they're so trigger happy with their tweets, and he was probably on the pooper and
right.
and saw a tweet and was like, oh yeah, let me just retweet this. But no, I agree with you. It's not a good reflection on the company. It, all jokes aside, like, and I'll be honest with you, I appreciate Asha being transparent, but I will say a lot of people criticize Phil and crucified him for being too transparent at times. So let's see how this plays out.
Yeah. Again, I still have confidence in her, and I think if it means having to close studios for the health of the business. I mean, the other thing Mike Ball said in interviews this week was, he mentioned that one of the first questions Asha asked him is, quote, "Is it fixable?" It, alluding to the Xbox business, and he talked about being an optimistic strategist, etc. So, I think they're putting out there like the business isn't healthy, which I can see and I can understand, and there's probably going to be a lot more pain before we reach new highs, but that's the journey we'll have to go on. I don't want to speculate, but I am worried about just looking at their list of studios who they could possibly close, and I don't know. It's gonna hurt my heart if they do close some studios.
Oh, for sure.
I have some guesses as who they could close. I mean, we didn't see Rare at this past showcase. We know they just canceled Everwild, which they were working on for the better part of, I don't even know, 6, 7, 8 years, and now they're only doing Sea of Thieves. Are they potentially on the chopping block? Especially when, again, this is pure speculation on my part, but their latest big Sea of Thieves update that they showed at the showcase was
user-generated content,
user-generated created things. So that's like, does that mean Rare's on the chopping block? Compulsion Games had an excellent video game last year called South of Midnight. I really love that game, but they're really slow. They make smaller games too. I don't know how successful South of Midnight was commercially. The game before that was We Happy Few. Again, an okay, decent game, but I don't think it was a commercial success. Like
No.
these types of studios do very creative work, but they're not the big system sellers that I think Xbox is going for. So we could possibly see some very creative studios close as a result of this, which again, if it's for the health of the business, understand, but it's just really hard to be in the games industry right now.
Hey man, look on the bright side, all right? There was a game called Wilson on Steam quite a while back, okay? It was an ARPG. It was so cool. Like the premise was great. It had so much potential, but then they got shut down. However, excuse me, one of the main creative directors moved over to create Expedition 33. And look at Expedition 33. They won Game of the Year. Phenomenal game. And he played a huge part in that. So what I'm trying to say is, if Rare gets shut down, if any of these amazing companies, developers get shut down, look on the bright side, man. Maybe they'll create a Game of the Year next year or something.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like what they did with Toys for Bob. Toys for Bob was spun out of Activision, and Xbox made this partnership where they're going to work on this next Spyro game.
Yeah.
We know Spyro's going to release on PlayStation 5 as well. So I'm glad Toys for Bob wasn't fully closed down, because they're a really great studio, but it's just like one of those things where it's like, man, if they were just kept that in house, like, really wanted them to work on my new banjo game, but I'll get off that. I'll get off that wagon.
This guy and his banjo, man.
Man, please give me banjo.
Yeah. And on the topic of Xbox, Asha did mention that the price of hardware, like RAM and things that go in the computer, it's been increased significantly, like 10x. So a couple years ago, I think 2 years ago, it was like 2x. Today, it's been 10x. So I am a little worried about the pricing of, whatever the new Xbox is. I'm worried about, them having shortages. And quite honestly, worried that they might not be putting the best of the best hardware inside. I mean, there are shortages. And if they want like the equivalent of whatever a 5090 is, right? That's gonna be expensive. I mean, a 5090 itself is like what, like $3,000-$4,000.
Nope.
It's insane. I mean, I'm a little worried. I mean, if I was a console main, right? If I mainly played on consoles, I'd be pretty worried, and I'd be taking care of my current consoles. To be quite honest with you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think two things. Based on all the interviews she's had this week, it does still sound like they are shooting for that holiday 2027 release. Obviously, things and economics can change that date, but right now they are still shooting for that date. While, as quote, they said they're exploring new models and in terms of how to finance that. I think one of my main questions will be, will they still go the route of multiple models like they did with the series of consoles? There's kind of controversy and debate whether that was the right move, whether the Series S kind of brings down the Series X, because you're essentially developing for two different consoles with two different levels of specs.
Mm-hmm.
But given the shortages and the increased prices that we're seeing, would it still make more sense to have still that budget box versus a more of an enthusiast box, which is for the hardcore Xbox fan who's willing to pay that extra price, such as myself? But it really is. It's going to be really interesting on the strategic decisions that they have to make to get that price down. Because I absolutely agree. Like, at the point of spending $1,000 for a console, at what point do you just cough up the extra, however many hundreds of dollars, and just get yourself a gaming PC, which can last you just as long and is easily upgradable?
Yeah. No, and listen, Marco, I'm gonna be positive Nick this call or this video. I think this will push developers and not entirely move away from this, but I think there'll be a lot more focus and a lot more eyes on games that are maybe not as graphically intensive, right? Maybe more pixel art things, maybe, like more isometric,
More
more
in the double
indie,
A realm.
more in the double A realm, more indie, right? But with great gameplay mechanics, with fantastic storytelling, right? Good voice acting. I think a little more focus on that rather than like photorealistic, you know, games. That could be a good thing. We might be getting the new like Balatros and the new Stardew's and the new Binding of Isaac games, and I'm cool with that. Honestly, like I think the indie scene has so much untapped potential. I mean, look at Expedition 33, man. That's considered indie. 100% that's considered indie. Look at them. They won Game of the Year. I would say
Yeah,
when It Takes Two, indie, right? Split Fiction, indie. Like, it's.
I would say like I think we're gonna see economies of scale across multiple different aspects, and to that end too, like for better or for worse, I think there's gonna be bigger pushes towards engines like Unreal Engine 5 and Unreal Engine 6, where these are kind of universal languages for these developers, and as the
Yeah.
industry
Yeah.
unfortunately kind of consolidates too, I think we're going to see a lot more games on Unreal Engine versus proprietary engines as the talent shifts around, because Microsoft, like that's the reason Halo went on Unreal Engine. Like they want to get off their Slipspace engine. You have Bethesda using Creation Engine. You have all these different engines within Microsoft, and you want interchangeable talent.
Mm-hmm.
I think kind of with that shift to smaller, faster games, it may come at the price of consolidating engines, which may, my fear is games look a little bit samey, but at the same time, if we get more games in with faster development times, that's the trade-off we have to make. But I think those are the types of decisions someone like an Asha, Matt Booty has to sit down and really think about, how do we achieve these economies of scale to be able to, produce the content at a much quicker rate? Because that's the whole game. Is like how fast can you push out this content? Because at this point in time, if a game doesn't succeed for a studio and you have to wait another 5, 6, 7 years for a product, your studio is on the chopping block. And I think that's what we're seeing right now within Xbox, as well as we'll talk about in the next headline, Ubisoft as well.
Yeah, and good timing. Let's jump into Ubisoft real quick. You know, I'll be honest with you, man. Ubisoft, they haven't been doing too hot, right? I mean, all their recent releases like Assassin's Creed wasn't that, it wasn't an ultra like bestseller. Um Look, Rainbow Six, I mean, that's like their bread and butter at this point, making them money. But Rainbow Six is going on what? How long has Rainbow Six Siege been up?
10 years, 10, 11.
10, 11 years? Yeah, like that's insane. Yeah,
I
12.
believe it's
Yeah,
2015, right?
yeah, 2015. Yeah, so
Not to mention For Honor was 2016, a year later, and they're just announced that they had a trailer today or this week on the 10-year anniversary season 2.
yeah,
So really, they're rusting on decades old game at this
right.
point.
And I would argue that For Honor doesn't even have a fraction of the player base as Rainbow Six has, right? And this is coming from someone who enjoyed For Honor. I had so much fun playing For Honor, but like, if I were a diehard Ubisoft fan, I would be worried right now because their focus has been on Rainbow Six. Now you're hearing that they're ramping off the developers from Rainbow Six. I think they said somewhere in the numbers of 12%, right?
Yep.
That's a little worrying, man. And
Yeah. So
go ahead.
yeah. So this week they closed 2 studios entirely. They closed their Winnipeg office as well as their Belgrade office. Earlier this year in January, they closed their Stockholm studio. They closed another studio who's now I'm forgetting which office. And now, granted, like many of these studios were on the smaller side, and more so support studios. But for example, the Winnipeg office had just opened in 2018, so we're not even into 10 years of that office being opened, and it's already being closed. And earlier this year, when they closed one of their studios, they had just unionized as well. And they're like, oh yeah, our decision to close that office had been made, prior to their unionization. Because I think employees see the writing on the wall. Ubisoft is not doing well as a company. I think they're trying to get their financials in order. I do think they get acquired in the next 2 to 3 years, and I think they're just consolidating. I know it's a private company right now by the Guillemot family. I I or sorry, it's is it public? No, it's private. I'm already
Uh,
forgetting.
Ubisoft is a publicly traded company.
But I think they start getting their financials in order, and I think we get to see it sold. Who's going to purchase them at this point? I mean, they do have so much great intellectual property, but we could argue they've been wasting it for years now as well.
And it's funny you bring that up because Ubisoft is partially owned by Tencent.
Mm-hmm.
And as we all know, if for all you listeners out there, if you don't know who Tencent is, do know, because they are the biggest, I guess, like acquisition slash publisher slash kind of developer in the gaming space and more. But they've been acquiring a lot of studios, and I see that they own a part of Ubisoft. I wonder if they fully buy out the rest of Ubisoft. Not saying that I don't know if it's a good or bad thing, but
or they very likely could chop it up for parts, and some studios go into different places, and some sort of buyout agreement, and developers and publishers kind of all jump on. But yeah, it's and they had earlier this year, just they had mentioned, like, we're still working on the Splinter Cell remake. Okay, haven't seen that in how many years?
Nothing.
Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time remake, which has been in development again another 5 or so years, which sounded like it was close to being done, also got canceled this year, probably as a tax write-off, right? Like, they're just I think this is very much a they're surviving this year by the edge of their seat. We'll see how Assassin's Creed Black Flag Resynced sells later this month. I'll be watching that pretty closely because, otherwise they're just making money off decades old games and remakes.
They have 2 games releasing this year, and that's Monopoly Star Wars and Assassin's Creed Black Flag. And I get it. Black Flag, for sure, people are going to buy it just from nostalgia, like best Assassin's Creed, etc., best pirate game out there, etc., whatever, right? That doesn't matter what boat you're on. I think a lot of people will probably jump on that ship. Double Black Flag pun right there, by the way. But yeah, I mean, I don't see how they're going to survive the next couple of years if they're not showing something.
Yeah, I don't think they pass go collect $200 with. I mean, come on, Monopoly. That doesn't get you and with high hopes. The best version of Monopoly, it's Star Wars. How can it not be good?
And the fact that the rumors are that they're like trying to use Gen AI for a lot of their development does not bode well. I mean, there's been talks about how it just looks terrible. It just doesn't work out. It's delaying some of the development time because vibe coding isn't working. The developers actually have to go back and double check, triple check the coding and fixing things and bug fixing. Like, I don't know, man. I was a big fan of Ubisoft back then. I don't really have high hopes.
I don't think Ubisoft's really been too great in the last 10 years.
No, it hasn't. Yeah.
Like outside of Siege.
I would say Siege. I would say Siege is their downfall. Them focusing on Siege because it made them so much money. Yeah. Like, I think that's their downfall. They focus on that, and then they create that X Defiant, pretty generic shutdown. Like they're just chasing the next big multiplayer streamer slot game, and it just backfired on them.
We'll just wait for them to make Pokemon cards with all of their Ubisoft intellectual property. Maybe that'll make them some money.
Yeah, maybe they'll get a shiny Rayman or a shiny Splinter Cell.
Yeah. Yeah, give me a Kaboom Sam Fisher Topps Chrome tomorrow.
This man knows his Pokemon cards. All right, I want to talk about Ninja Theory and how they announced the cancellation of Project Mara. How are you feeling about that, man?
I have so much respect for Ninja Theory. Just, I think everything that they create is art, and honestly, I was really excited. Like, I'm not the biggest horror game fan, but I didn't realize the first trailer for Project Mara it's already been 6 years old. I didn't realize they announced it around the same time as Hellblade 2.
Dude, it looks so
And
good.
We've seen some very photorealistic games like Hellblade 2, namely being one of them. But because they were focusing on one small apartment, like taking thousands and thousands of photos of real life objects, like just the level of fidelity that they were able to achieve, just like that. I'll call it a tech demo because we didn't really see gameplay of the game, but just like it looked incredible. And like, I know you haven't finished Hellblade. I'm gonna make you finish those games, but taking what they were able to achieve with Hellblade, with the psychosis of the main character Senua, putting that in a straight up horror game with sights and sounds, a game you definitely want to play with headphones on. I was going to be super excited for this game. So it's frustrating to hear that the game is canceled. Don't know exactly how long they've been working on it, how far along it even was. I mean, granted, I'm glad we're still going to get, a major product out of Ninja Theory next year with the announcement of Senua.
It looks so good. We talked about that in the other video. Man, I'm excited for that.
Yep. And it's just one of those unfortunate things. We've gotten so used to big game cancellations over the last few years, and this is just another one on that long list of games. But it is a tough one to see because I thought, Ninja Theory is one of those studios that is extremely well poised to make a great horror game. And honestly, like, even the trailer kind of reminded us of like the project the Silent Hills game. I'm already forgetting the
it's like OD Knock basically,
right? OD Knock, Silent Hills,
the predecessor of like OD Knock.
So
yeah, no, it is disappointing. I mean, the thing is, the premise was so unique. I was so excited for just from that, right? And the fact that it's horror, like I've mentioned this before, I'm the biggest scaredy cat when it comes to horror games, but that's not going to stop me from playing it. And I was looking forward to it. I felt like it was going to be one of those like psychological, like not like in your face jump scare kind of horror games. Like I think it's one of those like, that really messes with your mind, and it is a little disappointing. But like I said, Senua looks really, really good. Like I mentioned, I'm going to play the first 2 games because of that, because this game looks right up my alley. It looks like a Dark Souls game almost at this point. Where whenever there's something bad, there's something good, right? I don't know how that saying goes, but you know what I mean.
Right. And it's not like horror fans don't have anything to look forward to. I thought we saw so many great horror games last week at the showcase. So yeah, and I think we see OD Knock later this year. Hopefully, let's hope Jeff Keighley comes through. I'm gonna keep saying that for the rest of this year until it happens. But
yeah, it'll be so nice. But all right, guys. Well, those were our 3 top headlines for this week. Hopefully, you guys enjoy this sort of content. We'll be doing more content like this. We have a lot more juicy content coming up. Content that's not just news and reacts. I know we've been doing a lot of that lately, but we have content that will be more in-depth discussions, some rankings of our personal favorites, some get to know us type of videos when it pertains to gaming, just a lot of different content. So please make sure to leave a like, subscribe, whichever platform you guys are on. Make sure to follow us on all the platforms, again, in the link down below. We would really appreciate it because we enjoy connecting with you all. Marco and I, we're 9 to 5 gamers just like you all. We're here to create a community, just vibe out and just be chill guys, you know?